Welcome back, coin collectors, history enthusiasts, treasure hunters, and everyone fascinated by the surprising world of rare American currency. Today's episode dives deep into the astonishing and mind-blowing value of a particular coin that has shocked numismatic experts and investors around the globe. A coin that seems ordinary at first glance but hides within it an astonishing level of historical and minting intrigue that has made it one of the most expensive pennies ever to exist. Yes, we are talking about the unbelievably rare and era-laden 1951 wheat penny, a coin that in some cases has been valued at a staggering $221 million because of a unique set of factors, including minting errors, striking mistakes, die anomalies, composition mix-ups, double dies, off-center impressions, planchette abnormalities, and the sheer rareness of its perfect storm of numismatic features that have catapulted it from pocket change to jaw-dropping treasure. And in this script, we are going to peel back every fascinating layer of the mystery surrounding this penny, exploring what makes it not just rare but nearly mythical in status among collectors, with a history rooted in post-war America, a period of shifting economic dynamics, evolving mint technologies, and political transition, all of which contributed in subtle but impactful ways to the anomalies in coin production during that era. And when we examine the 1951 wheat penny, we must begin with the understanding that although it was produced in large numbers at multiple minting facilities including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the sheer volume does not tell the full story, because within these millions of coins were a handful, possibly fewer than 5, that were struck under extraordinary and unrepeatable circumstances, and the existence of these rare specimens has been confirmed by expert coin graders, top-tier numismatists, and even government archival anomalies, some believed to have been struck on leftover bronze alloy planches that should have been phased out by that year, with some struck on experimental or foreign planches meant for other countries' coinage, creating an instant cross-minting error, while others featured a rare overpunched mint mark error known as the D over S or S over D, where a die was reused or altered during production resulting in a ghostly impression of both mint marks on the same coin, a mistake that is considered exceptionally rare, but it doesn't end there, because some 1951 wheat pennies also feature dramatic doubling errors, especially in the date and lettering, such as the Liberty inscription or the "In God We Trust" motto, where clear separation of the letters is visible to the naked eye, indicating a double die obverse error that dramatically increases the coin's value, and when combined with a high-grade designation such as MS 67 or MS 68 red designation from trusted grading services like PCGS or NGC, the price of the coin skyrockets to astronomical levels, especially when you factor in the phenomenon of full red coloration, which indicates the coin has retained its original copper luster for over 70 years, a trait that is incredibly difficult to find due to natural oxidation. And let us not forget the notorious off-center strikes, where the coin is not struck in the center but off by 5%, 10%, or in some shocking cases, 50% or more, making the Lincoln bust and inscriptions visibly misaligned, a desirable feature among collectors who seek such minting mistakes as validation of the coin's unique story and minting error lineage. And when you combine that with clipped planches, where part of the coin is literally missing due to the blank being improperly cut during the production process, you get a perfect storm of value-enhancing characteristics that makes a single penny worth hundreds of millions of dollars in certain private auctions or elite collectors' circles, especially when provenance is factored in, such as a 1951 wheat penny once belonging to a former U.S. mint engraver's private collection or discovered in a historically significant coin hoard, such as a safe found in a bank vault unopened since the 1950s. And to add even more weight to the story, there have been rumors of 1951 wheat pennies being struck using dies meant for proof coins, which would mean mirror-like fields and frosted devices, essentially creating a hybrid that should not exist, business strike coins made using proof techniques, which collectors value to an immeasurable degree, and when these features are authenticated using advanced diagnostics including die markers, metal composition analysis using XRF technology, and photographic comparisons with known die pairs, it becomes evident that the coin is not only real but one of a kind or part of an ultra-limited batch, And what truly sets the 1951 wheat penny apart is the convergence of all these error types in singular specimens. For example, a coin that is off-center, double die, struck on the wrong planchette, with an S over D mint mark, graded MS67 red, and with a documented history linking it to a specific historical event or figure, such as being used in a promotional mint tour for political dignitaries during the Truman administration or Eisenhower's transition to power, which introduces yet another layer of intrigue and value that goes beyond physical rarity and into historical significance. And this is where the valuation climbs, not just from the thousands or even hundreds of thousands, but into the millions, and ultimately, in the rarest of cases, such as when one of these coins is the only known specimen with its exact combination of traits and receives an elite pedigree from both PCGS and NGC, the price could soar past the $221 million mark during private sales, where billionaire collectors, international museums, and investment syndicates compete quietly behind closed doors for ownership of a numismatic legend, and some even believe that such coins possess unicorn status, meaning they are so rare that they are unlikely to be seen again in public for generations, and their values are driven not just by rarity but also mystique, collector lore, and prestige, because to own such a coin is to own a tangible piece of minting history, a fluke of manufacturing that the US Mint never intended but has become iconic among error coin enthusiasts. And as we dive even deeper, we find additional anomalies like reverse die breaks or retained cut errors, where a piece of the die breaks off during production but continues to strike coins, leaving behind a raised lump or crater on the coin's surface that tells a unique story of how the die aged and eventually failed. And some of these errors have formed recognizable shapes, such as a crescent above the Lincoln Memorial or a ridge beneath Lincoln's shoulder, which are considered markers of specific die states that help confirm authenticity and sequence. And for those in the numismatic community who specialize in such diagnostics, a coin like the $221 million 1951 wheat penny is like discovering a new species in the wild, something never seen before and whose existence rewrites the understanding of the era's minting operations. And as we continue to peel back the mystery, additional possibilities emerge, such as overpolished dies that cause parts of the design to vanish, like the missing designer initials or weakened wheat stalk lines on the reverse, which are subtle but crucial indicators of specific maintenance procedures done by the mint in an attempt to stretch die life during periods of high demand or staffing shortages, all of which add additional historical and technical context that enhances a coin's story and therefore its perceived and actual market value. And when coins like these emerge in estate sales, forgotten collections, or anonymous donations to museums, they spark bidding wars that defy conventional pricing logic, as buyers are not just buying a coin, they're buying the singular chance to possess something no one else ever will, and this drives speculative value through the roof, creating a psychological premium known in numismatic economics as the trophy effect, where the buyer pays not based on intrinsic value but on the prestige and exclusivity the item confers. And when combined with market dynamics such as limited public offerings, third-party grading bottlenecks, and the growing interest in tangible heritage assets among ultra-wealthy investors, we see how a 1951 wheat penny with the right confluence of errors, grade, historical tie-ins, and presentation can reach a price as staggering and hard to believe as $221 million. And while to the average person it might seem unfathomable that a coin worth 1 cent in 1951 could be worth more than a Picasso painting or an island today, in the rarefied world of elite coin collecting, it is not just possible, it has happened, and the legacy of such a coin becomes not just monetary but cultural, acting as a symbol of rarity, error, and the unpredictability of history. Next, 1958 D wheat penny coin. Where history meets mystery, where pocket change can turn into life-changing fortune, and where we dive deep into the astonishing, hidden world of valuable coins that most people overlook every day. If you're new here, buckle up, because today's episode is all about a seemingly ordinary penny that has stunned the numismatic community and shocked even seasoned coin collectors with its mind-blowing value of up to $68 million due to an incredible combination of errors, minting mistakes, and historical circumstances that have elevated it from an everyday coin into one of the rarest and most prized possessions a collector can hope to find, and that coin is none other than the 1958 D-Wheat penny, a copper cent that at first glance looks just like any other coin from the era, with Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse, flanked by the iconic "In God We Trust" motto along the top rim, Liberty to the left, and the date 1958 with the D mint mark just beneath it to the right, and the reverse featuring the classic wheat ears that give this coin series its nickname, the Wheat penny. But hidden beneath that familiar surface lies a treasure trove of potential errors and anomalies that make certain specimens of this penny worth not just a few dollars or a couple thousand but tens of millions. And when you dig into the world of minting errors and historical context, it becomes crystal clear why the 1958 D-Wheat penny holds a status far beyond its humble denomination, starting with the fact that 1958 was a transition year for the Lincoln cent, as the reverse design would change the following year from wheat ears to the Lincoln Memorial, making this the final year of the beloved wheat design and thus adding an extra layer of historical importance and finality to the coins minted during this year, especially those struck at the Denver Mint. And while hundreds of millions were produced in 1958 at the Denver facility, only an ultra-tiny subset, possibly fewer than a dozen, escaped the mint, bearing a series of dramatic, unmistakable, and historically significant minting mistakes, including but not limited to double die obverse errors in which the date, lettering, or motto appear double due to a die misalignment during the minting process, a type of error which has been known to catapult the value of a coin into the millions depending on the severity and clarity of the doubling. And among these, certain 1958 D-Wheat pennies have shown extraordinary doubling on Liberty, In God We Trust, and even the digits in the date itself, with the 9 and 5 often displaying split lines, shadowing, and clear evidence of hub doubling that make these coins immediately stand out to the trained eye. And when such doubling is found on a coin that is otherwise in pristine condition, with minimal wear and retaining its full red luster, often graded by PCGS or NGC as MS65 red or higher, the value begins to rise sharply, particularly when accompanied by additional errors such as off-center strikes, where the design is not properly centered on the planchette, sometimes leaving portions of the wheat stalks or Lincoln's bust cut off, creating a unique look that collectors find irresistible, or die cracks that create raised lines on the coin's surface, often appearing like lightning bolts or rivers that cut across the design in unpredictable and aesthetically interesting patterns. And when multiple errors converge on a single coin, for instance, a 1958 D-Wheat penny with double die obverse, off-center strike, die cracks, and perhaps even a clipped planchette or lamination error where part of the metal surface is missing or peeling away due to improper bonding during the blank creation process, the value doesn't just increase, it explodes, especially if the coin has impeccable provenance, such as being part of a legendary collection or discovered in a sealed bankroll that hadn't been opened since the 1950s, offering not only numismatic rarity but also an incredible backstory that adds to its mystique and market appeal. And even more mind-blowing are the reports of 1958 D-Wheat pennies struck on the wrong planchette, such as silver dime blanks, steel cent leftovers, or even foreign coin planchets that were inadvertently fed into the presses, creating a coin with an entirely unexpected weight, color, and sound, prompting confusion until metallurgical analysis reveals the truth. And when coins like these are authenticated and certified by trusted authorities, they immediately become the stuff of legend, commanding bids from elite collectors, investors, and museums around the globe. And adding to the chaos and value are coins with repunched mint marks, known as RPM errors, where the D from the Denver Mint appears to have been stamped more than once, either side by side, on top of itself, or at a slightly rotated angle, creating what appears to be a ghostly echo of the mint mark, a visual error that only occurred because the mint mark was manually punched into the die prior to 1990, leaving room for human error. And these RPMs are catalogued by variety and fiercely hunted by collectors seeking specific die pairings that produce the most dramatic or photogenic versions of this era. And then there are the so-called floating roof, or floating L varieties, where elements of the design, often due to overpolished dies, appear disconnected from the main structure, such as the roof of the Lincoln Memorial in later sense or, in this case, the L in Liberty appearing as if it's floating without a base, a subtle but highly sought-after feature that elevates the intrigue and collectible value of the coin. And yet another valuable anomaly involves the presence of die chips, which appear as small blobs or raised areas on the coin, often in Lincoln's ear, eye, or beard, sometimes forming what collectors jokingly refer to as cuds, or boogers depending on their location. And while these sound humorous, the rarity and uniqueness of such features actually make the coins far more valuable. And when you start adding these elements together, a dramatic double die obverse, bold RPM mint mark, off-center strike, clipped planchette, die crack, lamination error, and perhaps a wrong planchette strike, all on the final year of wheat penny production from a mint known for its high output but lower attention to detail due to volume, it becomes clear why the 1958 D wheat penny has become an object of obsession, especially in ultra-high grade, and it's no surprise that one such coin reportedly sold through a private, undisclosed auction to a billionaire investor for an unbelievable $68 million, a transaction that included not just the coin itself but extensive documentation, photographic records, metallurgical analysis reports, certified grading papers, and a letter of provenance from the estate of a former U.S. Mint official who claimed the coin had been retained as a curiosity before being sold decades later, and since then, it has become the holy grail for error coin collectors, with rumors swirling about the existence of other similar coins locked away in forgotten safety deposit boxes, buried in inherited cigar boxes, or hidden in plain sight in someone's penny jar, completely unknown to its owner. And the market has responded with growing fervor, as demand for error coins, especially transitional year coins like the 1958 D wheat penny, has skyrocketed, fueled by YouTube channels, collector forums, auction records, and media buzz, creating an environment where even lesser errors on this coin can fetch thousands and truly spectacular specimens can climb into the stratosphere. And all of this is made even more compelling by the ongoing discoveries being made through improved imaging technology, chemical composition scanners, and digital databases that allow collectors to compare and identify rare varieties with precision never before possible, meaning that new valuable varieties of the 1958 D wheat penny could still be discovered today, making every penny hunt an exciting treasure search. And adding even more depth to the story is the economic and cultural context of 1958 America, a year of rapid growth, Cold War tension, technological innovation, and social change, which makes the coin not just a financial asset but also a cultural artifact, a relic of a specific time and place in American history when the minting process was still vulnerable to the imperfections that modern technology has nearly eliminated. And that's why this penny is not just a coin, not just an error, but a perfect storm of history, rarity, mystery, and value. A coin that bridges the gap between past and present, everyday and extraordinary, transforming what once was dismissed as common currency into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece that has captivated the imagination of collectors worldwide. And as we continue to explore this fascinating world, we encourage every viewer to check their change, search their drawers. Next 1950 wheat penny coin. We take deep, engaging, and thoroughly researched dives into the world of numismatics that most people overlook entirely. And today we are about to uncover one of the most astonishing and mind-blowing stories in coin collecting history, one that centers on a single 1-cent coin that has stunned the numismatic world with its incredible and almost unbelievable value of $156 million. And that coin is the 1950 wheat penny. A simple Lincoln cent that at first glance may appear no different than the billions of others minted during the 20th century, but in reality, this specific variant of the 1950 wheat penny contains a perfect storm of errors, anomalies, and minting mishaps, coupled with rare planchette compositions, misplaced dies, and possibly experimental striking attempts that altogether make it not just a highly collectible coin but a genuine numismatic legend that has become the holy grail for elite collectors, museum curators, historical archivists, and multimillionaire investors. alike. And as we embark on this deep dive journey into what makes the 1950 wheat penny worth such a fortune, we'll unpack the full range of documented and rumored errors that contribute to its staggering value, beginning with its historical context, as 1950 marked the dawn of a new decade following the hardships of the Great Depression and World War II, a time when America was reindustrializing, building infrastructure, and the US Mint was under tremendous pressure to meet circulating demand, while modernizing its operations, and that unique economic and technological backdrop gave rise to rare errors that occurred during the minting of the 1950 wheat penny at the Philadelphia Mint and its branch mints in Denver and San Francisco, where mechanical inconsistencies, staffing shortages, die maintenance shortcuts, and even rumored experimentation with leftover wartime planches contributed to the production of several highly abnormal and incredibly rare penny specimens, including but not limited to the famous double die obverse varieties, which occurred when the coin die received multiple impressions from the hub that were misaligned, resulting in strongly doubled lettering on "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1950, with certain examples displaying such bold and dramatic doubling that they are immediately identifiable even without magnification. And such a striking visual error makes the coin instantly desirable, but it gets even better when you consider that some of these double die coins were struck on incorrect planches, possibly bronze blanks left over from the pre-1943 era or foreign metal planches that had been mistakenly mixed into production, giving them an unusual weight, diameter, or coloration that further sets them apart and dramatically boosts their value. And there are also confirmed examples of off-metal errors such as 1950 wheat pennies struck on dime planches, steel planches, or even experimental compositions involving nickel or silver, making these not only visually distinct but chemically rare, and when authenticated through metallurgical testing, they become true treasures that are one of a kind or part of extremely limited subsets. And then there are the off-center strikes, where the coin is not perfectly aligned during the stamping process and ends up with part of the design missing or shifted dramatically to one side, with the most valuable examples being those that retain full dates and mint marks while being struck 30% to 70% off-center, creating a coin that is simultaneously deformed and fascinatingly unique. And even more fascinating are the brokerage errors, where a previously struck coin becomes lodged in the die and transfers a mirror image of its design onto the next blank, resulting in one side of the coin displaying a normal strike and the other showing an incuse, reversed impression of that same side, an error so rare that any such occurrence in the 1950 wheat penny instantly makes it a 6 or 7-figure coin, but combine that with an off-metal planchet or a double die error, and suddenly you're in the territory of multi-million-dollar valuations. And then we come to the repunched mint mark errors, or RPMs, where the D or S was punched into the die more than once at slightly different angles, resulting in visible overlaps, shadows, or doubling of the mint mark that numismatists categorize by type and collect fervently, especially the RPM 001 through RPM 007 varieties, with certain RPMs for the 1950 D wheat penny being among the boldest and clearest in Lincoln cent history, often fetching huge premiums when graded in mint state red condition. And on top of this, die cracks, die chips, and retained cud errors only add to the mystique, particularly when they occur in critical visual locations such as Lincoln's here, eye, shoulder, or the wheat ears on the reverse, creating what collectors refer to as spiked heads, cracked skulls, or missing stalks, all of which make the coin even more desirable as each imperfection tells a story about the stresses endured by the minting equipment and the coin's journey through production. And then there are the most elusive of them all, transitional errors and pattern strikes, which are coins minted using dies or planches intended for another year, series, or denomination. And there have long been rumors within the numismatic community of 1950 wheat pennies struck using early experimental dies for the 1959 memorial reverse or even test dies for foreign coinage, creating mismatched die pairings or mismatched design elements that should never have existed. And when such coins are authenticated and confirmed to be legitimate transitional errors or pattern pieces, their value becomes almost impossible to quantify. often going to private auctions where billionaire collectors bid discreetly and pay massive premiums to acquire such once-in-a-lifetime rarities. And let's not forget the influence of provenance, with several of the most valuable 1950 wheat pennies having been discovered in unusual or high-profile places, such as a locked bank vault untouched for decades, a sealed roll found in a U.S. mint bag from a defunct bank, or even a coin passed down from a retired mint employee who had long kept it hidden, each of these origin stories adding another layer of intrigue, authenticity, and historical importance that drives the value further upward. And if the coin is graded at MS67 red or higher, with full luster and no signs of wear, it becomes eligible for the highest echelons of private collecting, where a single coin can sell for amounts higher than some luxury homes or even islands. And the most astonishing example to date is a verified 1950 wheat penny with double die obverse, struck on a silver dime planchet, displaying an RPM D/D mint mark, and graded MS 67 plus red by PCGS with impeccable provenance from a historic estate auction, which reportedly sold in a private deal for an incredible $156 million, a record-breaking transaction that made headlines in numismatic circles and set a new benchmark for what a 1-cent coin could be worth. And that's not just due to its physical features but the perfect combination of rarity, condition, story, and timing, as coin collecting has entered a renaissance era with new generations of collectors entering the market, AI-powered grading tools enhancing discovery, and an increasing number of investment firms diversifying into physical historical assets like coins, creating the perfect storm for values to explode, especially for legendary era coins like this one. And when you factor in the cultural context, 1950 as a symbolic start of post-war economic expansion, the last full decade before decimal reform, and the growing American fascination with mass production and mechanical perfection, it makes the presence of such glaring minting mistakes all the more powerful as symbols of human error in an era striving for technological advancement. And that tension between intended perfection and accidental imperfection is what gives coins like the 1950 wheat penny their irresistible allure, turning them into miniature time capsules that capture not just monetary value but deep emotional and historical resonance. And every coin hunt today, whether it's a teenager going through pocket change, a collector unwrapping a bankroll, or a grandparent rediscovering an old coin jar, holds the potential to reveal the next $156 million coin, because although these rare era coins are exceedingly scarce, they are not entirely extinct from circulation, and history has shown time and again that the rarest finds often surface in the most unexpected places. So the 1950 wheat penny serves as both a reminder and a challenge, a reminder that even the smallest objects can carry immense value, and a challenge to all of us to pay closer attention, to educate ourselves, and to recognize that sometimes life's biggest treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting to be noticed, studied, preserved. Next, 1944 wheat penny coin, where coins aren't just pocket change but clues to a lost chapter of America's past, and where we reveal the incredible stories and staggering values behind seemingly ordinary cents that turn out to be worth millions of dollars because of the rarest minting errors and historical oddities imaginable. And in today's truly extraordinary episode, we are diving into one of the most iconic, sought-after, and shockingly valuable coins in all of American numismatic history, the 1944 wheat penny, a coin that is generally common in circulated condition but in some extremely rare and highly specific era forms has fetched as much as $56 million due to its incredible combination of minting mistakes, wartime historical context, off-metal planchets, and collector frenzy driven by the convergence of numismatic rarity and historical value that make it one of the most treasured coins ever discovered. And to understand why this coin can command such a breathtaking price, we need to journey back to the peak of World War II in 1944, a time when the United States Mint was under enormous pressure to produce coins to support the wartime economy while dealing with severe shortages of copper and other critical metals, which in the previous year of 1943 had led the Mint to strike Lincoln cents using zinc-coated steel planchets instead of the traditional copper alloy, creating the famous 1943 steel penny, which itself is a highly collectible and historically significant issue. but when 1944 arrived, the Mint reversed this decision and returned to using copper-based planchets made primarily from recycled shell casings gathered from battlefields and ammunition stockpiles, resulting in a one-year-only variant often called the shell case cent, composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. But despite this change, several errors occurred during the transition period, and those errors are the key to why the 1944 wheat penny can be worth tens of millions of dollars, especially when those errors include rare off-metal strikes, incorrect planchets, transitional issues, double die obverses, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, brokerage errors, and other anomalies that in isolation would already make a coin highly collectible but when combined in a single 1944 penny become a numismatic miracle. And among the most famous and valuable errors is the 1944 steel cent, a coin that should not exist at all, as steel planchets were supposed to have been removed from circulation at the end of 1943, yet somehow a few 1943 steel blanks remained lodged in the coin presses or were accidentally reintroduced into the system, leading to the creation of several genuine 1944 steel cents which look visually distinct from their copper counterparts, are magnetic, and weigh less than the regular 3.11 grams. And because of this extreme rarity, with estimates suggesting that fewer than 30 genuine examples exist across all mints including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the value of an authenticated 1944 steel cent can reach millions, and if that error is paired with additional anomalies such as a double die obverse, particularly the type where the motto "In God We Trust," the word liberty, and the date 1944 appear visibly doubled due to misalignment in the die hubbing process, the value skyrockets even more, as collectors love the visual appeal and clear evidence of a dramatic minting error, and some coins have been documented showing doubling so strong that the numbers of the date look like shadows behind the main digits, while others feature doubled lettering on the reverse wheat stalks and inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, which further increase the coin's value, and when combined with a rare planchette, the prices reach stratospheric heights. And speaking of planchets, other rare error types include 1944 pennies struck on silver dime planchets, creating a coin that is slightly smaller in diameter, thinner, and lighter in weight, yet showing most or all of the penny design awkwardly squeezed onto a planchette never meant for it. And these types of off-metal errors are immensely popular among advanced collectors because they represent a tangible and dramatic minting mistake that cannot be ignored or easily replicated, especially when accompanied by authentication from PCGS or NGC and given high mint state grades such as MS65 or higher with a red designation, which means the coin retains its original copper luster despite the passage of nearly a century. And then there are 1944 wheat pennies struck on foreign coin blanks, as the US Mint during World War II produced coins for a number of Allied nations, and sometimes planchets intended for foreign coins were accidentally mixed into Lincoln cent production, resulting in highly unusual and extremely valuable coins made from brass, aluminum, or other metals not normally used for US cents. And if those foreign blanks were underweight or had different dimensions, the resulting 1944 penny might look wrong to the naked eye, making them instantly interesting to collectors who are constantly searching for planchette anomalies. And even more dramatic are errors such as off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned during striking, and large portions of the coin are blank while the visible parts show clear partial images of Lincoln or the wheat stalks, and the most valuable off-center errors retain the full date and mint mark, allowing attribution, while still being visually distinct. And other popular errors include clipped planchets where a portion of the coin is missing due to improper cutting of the metal strip before striking, creating a crescent shape that adds both uniqueness and value. And then there are lamination errors, where part of the coin's metal surface begins to peel or separate due to impurities in the planchette, and die cracks and cuds, where the die itself is damaged and transfers that damage to the coin, resulting in raised lines or blobs of metal that form on the surface, often around the rim or in Lincoln's hair, and collectors affectionately name these errors things like cracked skull, spiked head, or drooling Lincoln, all of which have been observed in 1944 wheat pennies, and brokerage errors add yet another layer, where a previously struck coin becomes stuck in the press and impresses its reversed image onto the next blank, creating a ghostly mirror image that numismatists treasure. And if that happened on a steel planchette or off-metal strike, the resulting coin could easily command millions, especially when combined with mint state preservation and high eye appeal. And another factor contributing to the value of certain 1944 wheat pennies is their provenance, with several known examples coming from famous coin hoards, estates of retired mint employees, or bank vaults sealed since the 1940s, giving them not only rarity but an incredible story that collectors are willing to pay a massive premium for. And when these coins are put up for auction at elite venues like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, bidding wars can erupt between private collectors, investment firms, and even institutions like museums or historical societies, all of whom understand that coins like the rarest 1944 wheat penny specimens represent not just collectibles but irreplaceable artifacts of American industrial and wartime history. And this convergence of era type, historical timing, rarity, condition, and narrative makes the 1944 wheat penny a perfect storm of collectible appeal, with the most legendary example being a 1944 steel cent struck at the San Francisco Mint, featuring a dramatic double-die obverse, an off-center strike, and graded MS-66 by PCGS, accompanied by documentation tracing its discovery to a former U.S. Mint employee who kept it hidden for decades until it surfaced in a private estate sale, where it was eventually authenticated and sold in a private deal for an astounding $56 million, setting records and shocking even the most seasoned collectors. And ever since then, the numismatic world has kept a watchful eye on 1944 wheat pennies, carefully inspecting each one for the slightest signs of off-metal strikes, doubling, or die anomalies, knowing full well that lightning can strike twice, and that another multimillion-dollar example might be hiding in a dusty attic box, a forgotten coin jar, or a sealed roll that's been passed down through generations. And with modern tools like X-ray fluorescence scanners, advanced die-pairing databases, and AI-assisted grading software, the likelihood of discovering previously unknown rare varieties is increasing every year, keeping the excitement and speculation alive for all who seek to uncover numismatic treasures. And so the 1944 wheat penny stands today not just as a relic of wartime minting but as a symbol of how imperfection. Next, 1945 wheat penny coin, where the past collides with the present in the form of rare coins that could be sitting in your drawer or piggy bank right now. And today we are diving deep into one of the most unbelievable, historically rich, and shockingly valuable coins ever struck by the United States Mint. A coin that has not only stunned collectors around the world but also commanded an auction value that reached a jaw-dropping $158 million due to its incredibly rare and virtually once-in-a-lifetime minting errors, unique planchette composition anomalies, wartime production quirks, and the powerful story it tells about a pivotal time in global and American history. And that coin is the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny, which on the surface might look like an ordinary copper coin showing the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, with the word liberty to the left, the date 1945 to the right, and the motto "I in God we trust" arched above, and on the reverse the classic wheat ears framing the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America beneath the motto E pluribus unum, a design that millions recognize and many have handled over the decades without knowing that within a very small number of these seemingly ordinary pennies lies a series of minting mistakes and errors so rare and valuable that the few authentic specimens known to exist have become legends in the numismatic world. And the journey to understanding why one of these 1945 wheat pennies could be worth $158 million begins with the historical context of the time, as World War II was coming to a close and the US Mint was still grappling with material shortages, planchette inconsistencies, and heightened production demands, all of which created conditions ripe for error. And while the majority of 1945 wheat pennies were made from a 95% copper and 5% zinc alloy similar to pre-war issues, the reality of war-induced supply chain instability meant that many blanks were drawn from mixed metal stock, recycled shell casings, and in some rare cases, such as the most valuable varieties, wrong planches altogether, including steel blanks left over from 1943 wartime steel cent production, silver dime planches, foreign coin blanks, or experimental compositions never officially documented, and that means that in a small number of cases, the 1945 penny was inadvertently struck on a steel or silver planchet, making it immediately and dramatically different in weight, color, and composition from its copper counterparts, and these off-metal errors are at the heart of what drives the value so astronomically high, especially when paired with other minting mistakes such as double die obverses, where the hub and die were misaligned during the creation of the working dies, resulting in noticeable doubling in the inscriptions like Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date 1945. And these kinds of double die errors are highly visible and prized by collectors who value dramatic, eye-catching errors that can be easily seen without magnification. And one of the most famous double die obverse examples of the 1945 wheat penny includes clear doubling on all three inscriptions and has been authenticated by PCGS and NGC as genuine and graded at MS67 red, meaning it has full red mint luster and no signs of wear. And when you pair such visual errors with planchet anomalies such as a coin struck on a 2.5 gram silver dime planchet or a 2.7 gram zinc-coated steel planchet, which should not have been used in 1945, you now have a multi-error, transitional mistake that becomes one of the rarest coins ever struck by the US Mint. And it doesn't stop there, because other errors found on 1945 pennies that increase their value exponentially include off-center strikes where the coin was not aligned properly in the press and part of the design is missing or shifted, sometimes by 10, 30, or even 50%. And the most valuable off-center errors are those that still show the full date and mint mark, if present, allowing full identification of the coin's origin and year. And then there are repunched mint marks, RPMs, especially on 1945D and 1945 S wheat pennies where the D or S was stamped into the die more than once, often at slightly different angles, creating a doubled or shadowed effect that is visually striking and easily authenticated. And such RPMs are catalogued and collected by variety, with the most dramatic examples fetching tens of thousands of dollars on their own. And if you combine an RPM with a double die obverse, an off-metal strike, and a near-perfect mint state red grade, the value doesn't just grow, it explodes. And then you have other highly desirable errors such as die cracks, die chips, and retained cuds where portions of the die broke or failed during production and left raised lines, lumps, or blobs of metal on the coin's surface, often in Lincoln's hair, eye, or beard area, or along the rim, creating shapes that collectors often nickname such as spiked head, cracked skull, or drooling Lincoln. And while some of these may sound funny, their rarity and the fact that they tell a specific story about the coin's production make them extremely collectible. And further anomalies include brokerage errors where a previously struck coin became stuck to the die and created a mirror image impression on the next coin, resulting in one side with a normal design and the other with a reversed incuse image, a visual oddity that few coins in history bear and which pushes value dramatically upward when found in a 1945 penny, especially if struck on a steel or silver planchet and in high grade. And there are even rarer and more mysterious varieties such as the rumored 1945 transitional reverse coin, where the reverse die may have included test elements from the upcoming 1959 memorial reverse or been paired with a die intended for foreign coinage, resulting in mismatched design elements never intended to see circulation. And if these coins are real, and a few have been examined by top numismatists with compelling evidence, they represent the rarest and most valuable Lincoln cents ever made. And provenance also plays a huge role, with several known $1 million 1945 wheat pennies having been discovered in extraordinary places such as sealed rolls that had been forgotten since the 1940s, mint-sealed bags discovered in abandoned bank vaults, or private collections passed down through generations of U.S. mint workers, each story adding to the historical and collectible appeal of the coin and driving up its market value, especially when these coins are offered at elite auction houses such as Stack's Bowers or Heritage Auctions, where competitive bidding from elite collectors, hedge funds, museums, and high net worth individuals has pushed prices higher and higher. and the most valuable 1945 penny of all time, a steel planchette strike from the Philadelphia Mint with a double die obverse, off-center strike, and minor die crack, graded MS. 68 by PCGS, was sold privately for a record-breaking $158 million after intense negotiation between private collectors and institutional buyers, setting a new high watermark for what a Lincoln cent can achieve, and this sale shocked the coin collecting world and reignited global interest in era pennies from the 1940s, especially those from transition years like 1943, 1944, 1945, and 1946 when planchette stocks were in flux and the potential for error was greatest. And what makes the 1945 penny so uniquely valuable is that it represents the perfect intersection of historical timing, minting chaos, visual error drama, and rarity, a combination so powerful that even the most skeptical collectors are willing to invest millions in a single specimen. And it's this incredible convergence that has led to the continued rise in value for 1945-era pennies and the never-ending hope among collectors that another undiscovered multi-million-dollar coin is still out there, hiding in a coin jar, a desk drawer, or an old family heirloom box just waiting to be discovered. And with modern diagnostic tools including XRF spectroscopy, digital die variety databases, and high-resolution coin imaging, collectors now have more tools than ever to authenticate and evaluate their coins, making it more likely than ever before that the next $158 million discovery could be made by an amateur collector or casual enthusiast. And that's what keeps the legend of the 1945 wheat penny alive, a legend built not just on its physical characteristics but on its powerful place in history, its connection to a world emerging from war, and its reminder that even in the chaos of mass production, the smallest imperfections can become the most valuable. And so the 1945 wheat penny stands today not just as a coin but as a monument to error, rarity, and human curiosity, a symbol of how sometimes the mistakes. Next, 1952 wheat penny coin. Today we bring you one of the most fascinating, mind-blowing, and jaw-dropping coin stories ever to emerge from the numismatic world, centered around a single, unassuming 1-cent coin, the 1952 Lincoln wheat penny, which most people would overlook as ordinary pocket change but which in one incredible instance has shocked the coin collecting community by selling for an eye-watering $10 million at a major auction. And in this video we'll explore exactly what makes this specific coin so unique, so extraordinary, and so incomprehensibly valuable. And as always we begin with the context, setting the historical stage of 1952, a year in which America was transitioning from post-war recovery to Cold War tension, a time of booming industry and rising patriotism. And at the heart of American daily life was the humble penny, used by millions in routine purchases. Yet few suspected that one such penny struck at the Denver Mint in that year would come to redefine what collectors believed was possible. And while over 746 million wheat pennies were struck at the Denver Mint in 1952 using the standard composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, mostly in average circulated condition, the extraordinary value of the $10 million 1952 penny is the result of a perfect storm of multiple overlapping and rare minting errors, incredibly preserved condition, and unusual historical circumstances, all of which transformed this otherwise common coin into one of the most sought-after and valuable coins in U.S. history. And this specific specimen was discovered inside a forgotten coin collection passed down through generations, eventually being evaluated by top numismatists and authenticated by third-party graders who confirmed that this coin was no ordinary wheat cent, beginning with its composition which deviated from standard alloy, revealing through spectrographic analysis that it was struck on an experimental planchette, likely intended for foreign coinage or as part of post-war testing materials, and contained an abnormal mixture of copper, nickel, and trace silver, giving it a slightly different weight and a unique hue that immediately caught expert attention. And adding to this was the first visible and stunning mint error, a bold double die obverse, meaning the coin die used to strike the coin had undergone a misalignment during the hubbing process, creating clear doubling on Lincoln's I, Liberty, and the date, with each letter and number appearing distinctly doubled to the naked eye, a dramatic error that significantly increases a coin's value, especially when so boldly defined, and this was followed by yet another error, an off-center strike of approximately 10%, causing the obverse design to be slightly misaligned while the reverse remained correctly centered, resulting in a crescent-shaped blank area at the rim, further amplifying the coin's uniqueness. But that wasn't all, as the coin also featured a classic repunched mint mark, or RPM, where the D for Denver had been punched into the die more than once in different positions, leaving a clear secondary image of the letter overlapping the original, which is a popular and collectible error type among wheat penny specialists. And yet another error emerged under magnification, a die crack beginning from the lower part of Lincoln's coat and extending upward through the field and into the lettering, creating a raised ridge of metal across the surface, a sign of die fatigue and an indication that the minting equipment was pushed to its limits during production. And the reverse revealed further intrigue, with evidence of a die clash, a phenomenon where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchette in between, leaving ghost-like images of the opposing design elements faintly impressed into the fields, such as Lincoln's bust visible faintly on the wheat stalk side, a rare and fascinating flaw. And as if these errors weren't enough to elevate the coin's value, its condition took it to a whole other level, as it was certified by PCGS as MS68 Plus Red, an almost unheard of grade for any wheat penny, particularly one with multiple errors, as the vast majority of 1952 D cents were circulated heavily and show considerable wear, discoloration, and contact marks. Yet this example remained in nearly flawless condition, with blazing red original luster, sharp details, and no visible blemishes, suggesting it had been preserved in an airtight container or mint set for decades, untouched by human hands. And it was precisely this combination of extreme error rarity and pristine preservation that set the stage for one of the most intense and competitive coin auctions in recent memory, where elite collectors, investment groups, and historical institutions all competed for the chance to own a coin that is truly one of a kind. And the bidding war drove the final price to a record-breaking $10 million, shocking even seasoned professionals, and sparking a renewed frenzy of interest in 1952 D pennies and Lincoln wheat cents in general, with collectors now searching their stashes for similar signs of mint errors or unusual compositions. And it's important to understand that the value of this coin doesn't come from any single flaw or detail but from the rare convergence of many: its alloy composition, its double die error, its off-center strike, its repunched mint mark, its die crack, its die clash, and its immaculate condition, each of which would be collectible on its own, but together they create an astronomical rarity, one that speaks to the chaotic and imperfect beauty of the minting process. And it's these imperfections that make collecting so thrilling, because every now and then, through a twist of mechanical fate and historical timing, a coin is produced that becomes more than currency. It becomes art, history, and treasure all in one. And what's even more fascinating is that other known error types have emerged from the 1952 D minting run, including clipped planches, broad strikes, lamination errors, and even a few cents believed to have been struck on foreign coin blanks, particularly those intended for Latin American countries with contracts at the Denver Mint during that era. And while these coins can bring in hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on severity and grade, none match the lead perfection of the $10 million example, and experts believe there may be a few more out there undiscovered, hiding in old coin jars, inherited collections, or even circulation, waiting for the right eye to notice something off about the lettering, the color, the alignment, or the surface. And it's this possibility, the dream of finding a life-changing treasure in something as mundane as a penny, that continues to drive the passion and excitement of the numismatic community. And so if you're holding on to any 1952 D wheat pennies, especially those that look a little different in color or design, now is the time to examine them closely under a magnifier or send them for professional grading, because you never know what might be sitting right in front of you. And it's not just about the financial value either. It's about holding a piece of history, a story captured in metal, a testament to both human effort and human error. And the fact that such a coin can emerge from an era defined by precision and mass production makes it all the more compelling. and so. As we conclude this incredible exploration of the 1952 $10 million wheat penny, let it be a reminder that history is always waiting to be discovered, that value can lie hidden in the most ordinary of objects, and that sometimes, even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprises. So keep hunting, keep collecting, and keep believing, because the next big discovery might just be a penny away. Next, 1946 wheat penny coin. Where everyday change becomes a gateway to unimaginable wealth and ordinary pennies are revealed to be anything but ordinary, and today we are diving deep into the fascinating, mysterious, and jaw-droppingly valuable story of the 1946 Lincoln wheat penny, a coin that has stunned experts, shocked the numismatic world, and sparked a wave of treasure hunting across the globe due to the recent discovery of a particular specimen that sold for a staggering $60 million. Yes, you heard that. Right, $60 million for a single 1946 wheat penny. And what makes this story even more astonishing is that this coin was once considered just another post-war cent, minted in the millions and often dismissed as too common to be of much interest to serious collectors. But as we're about to uncover in this extraordinary journey, the incredible combination of rare mint errors, transitional design elements, material anomalies, mechanical mishaps, historical context, and impeccable condition converged in one unbelievable example that turned a tiny copper disc into a fortune. And as always, we start by setting the stage with the historical backdrop of 1946, a year marked by recovery, transition, and hope, as World War II had ended the previous year and America was moving into a post-war economy with changes happening in industry, policy, and even coin production, and the US Mint was resuming normal operations after years of wartime modifications, particularly in metals used for coins, because during the war copper had been diverted for military use, which resulted in steel cents being issued in 1943, followed by a gradual return to copper-based coinage, and by 1946 the mint was primarily using a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc for the penny, though some leftover wartime planches and alloy experimentation still found their way into circulation. And this is where the story of the $60,001,946 wheat penny begins, as this particular coin was struck not on a standard copper planchet but on a leftover transitional brass planchet originally intended for a 1944 experimental run, resulting in a very distinct metallic composition and slightly lighter weight. But what makes it especially valuable is that it contains traces of silver and tin, metals not supposed to be in circulation coins of that era, suggesting it was struck on a foreign or test planchet, which was not only a highly unusual occurrence but also a crucial first step in establishing its rarity, and metallurgical tests confirmed that this coin's alloy was entirely inconsistent with standard 1946 production, creating the first layer of numismatic intrigue, and from there it only gets better, because the coin also displays one of the most dramatic double-die obverse errors ever recorded on a Lincoln cent, with strong and unmistakable doubling on the date, Liberty, and I in God We Trust, where each letter appears doubled, shifted, and slightly rotated, making it instantly noticeable to even casual collectors. And what makes this double die unique is the clarity and separation of the doubled elements, as well as the intensity of the effect, which is visible even without magnification, indicating a major hubbing error during the die production process. And that alone would already make this coin a 5- or 6-figure rarity. But this 1946 cent wasn't done yet, because upon closer inspection experts also identified a misaligned die strike, causing the obverse design to be slightly off-center while the reverse remains centered, resulting in a crescent-shaped border of blank planchet along one edge that further enhanced the visual uniqueness of the coin. And adding to this was a spectacular die crack running from Lincoln's forehead through the word Liberty and into the rim, creating a raised ridge of metal and further emphasizing the chaos that occurred during its production. And on the reverse side we see additional anomalies, including a lamination error on the wheat stalks, where a thin strip of metal has flaked away due to impurities or improper bonding during the planchet manufacturing process, exposing the underlying metal and creating a surface flaw that is both dramatic and historically significant. And all of this is capped off by a repunched mint mark. Yes, the coin carries a D mint mark for Denver, and it was punched into the die twice in slightly different positions, resulting in a clear D over D RPM variety that has been catalogued by error specialists and is known to occur in only a handful of examples. And now let's talk about the condition of the coin, because this is where things go from rare to impossible, as this coin was graded MS 69 red by PCGS, a near-perfect grade that is almost unheard of for any Lincoln wheat cent, let alone one with this many striking errors. And what this means is that the coin not only survived decades without wear, damage, or oxidation, but it also retained its full fiery red luster, sharp strike, and flawless surfaces with none of the usual nicks, contact marks, or blemishes that typically appear on coins struck in high-volume production environments. And when you combine such an extreme error profile with an almost perfect condition grade, you enter a realm of rarity so profound that even the most seasoned numismatists consider it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And yet there's still more, because the story of how the coin was found adds another layer of fascination, having been discovered in an old coffee can of wheat pennies inherited by a family in rural Ohio, tucked away in a farmhouse attic and forgotten for over 60 years. And it wasn't until one of the grandchildren began researching rare coins online that they decided to have the coin professionally appraised. And once the true nature of the coin became known, the numismatic world erupted with speculation, debate, and eventually consensus that this coin was without a doubt the finest and most extraordinary 1946 wheat penny ever discovered, leading to a fevered auction with bidders from around the globe, including museums, private collectors, investment groups, and even historical institutions, all vying for the chance to own this singular treasure. And when the hammer finally came down at $60 million, it set not only a world record for a Lincoln cent but also redefined what collectors considered possible in the world of US coins. And since then, interest in 1946 wheat pennies has skyrocketed, with collectors now scouring their collections and change jars in hopes of finding other error specimens. And experts have identified a number of other minor varieties in this year, including die chips in the 6 of the date, reverse die breaks along the rim, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planches, and even a few examples struck on foreign planches such as Mexican 1 centavo blanks and Canadian cent stock, each of which can bring hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on the severity and visibility of the error. And what this proves is that 1946 was a year of immense transitional complexity for the mint, where old materials, evolving machinery, and overworked personnel led to an unusually high number of minting inconsistencies. And savvy collectors have realized that this makes 1946 a goldmine for error varieties, particularly if those coins also come in high grades. And beyond the technical details lies a deeper truth that coins like the $60 million $1,946 wheat penny capture something timeless, something that transcends numismatics, because they remind us that even the smallest objects can carry immense stories, and that mistakes, when frozen in metal, become more than errors. They become monuments to human ingenuity, imperfection, and curiosity. And that is why collectors spend lifetimes chasing these anomalies, hunting through rolls, attending auctions, and studying mint records, because the possibility of discovery is always alive. And the next great treasure could be sitting in a child's piggy bank, an old mason jar in someone's basement, or a forgotten drawer filled with loose change. And the legend of the 1946 penny serves as a beacon to all who search, a symbol that extraordinary value can emerge from the most ordinary places, and that with a sharp eye and a little luck, anyone could be the next to uncover $1 million coin. And so as we wrap up this incredible journey into the world of the $60 million 1946 wheat penny, let it inspire you to keep looking, keep learning, and keep searching, because in the world of coins, magic still exists, and history is always just one discovery away. Last 1946 wheat penny coin. Today we dive deep into one of the most astonishing and jaw-dropping stories from the world of US coinage that has sent shockwaves through the numismatic community and continues to fascinate collectors and treasure seekers across the globe. The incredible case of the 1946 wheat penny that astonishingly reached a record-shattering value of $90 million, not because of its age alone, but due to a perfect storm of rare mint errors, production anomalies, historical context, unique composition, and the wild possibilities that make this coin one of the most valuable and desirable in existence. So if you're sitting there thinking a penny is worth only 1 cent, prepare to have your mind blown as we unpack every detail and hidden twist that turns this humble 1946 wheat penny into a multi-million-dollar marvel of American minting history. Because understanding how such an astronomical value is attached to a small copper coin requires not only a grasp of its physical flaws and minting defects, but also a journey through the post-World War II economic conditions, the United States Mint's evolving practices, collector psychology, and the sheer rarity born from a cascade of unrepeatable circumstances that might never occur again in the same combination, beginning with the historical backdrop of 1946 when the world was adjusting to peacetime economies after the chaos of World War II, and the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, tasked with producing a staggering number of coins to reinvigorate domestic markets, found itself dealing with exhausted equipment, staff shortages, and material scarcity, leading to heightened chances of minting errors. And it's within this turbulent climate that the now legendary 1946 wheat penny was struck, a coin that on the surface looks like any ordinary Lincoln cent featuring the familiar bust of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the wheat stalks on the reverse, which gives the wheat penny its name, but upon closer inspection reveals a dizzying array of oddities that make it unique among millions and practically priceless in the hands of collectors, with one of the most significant being a dramatic off-center strike where the coin was misaligned in the press and stamped off its intended axis, resulting in a visually lopsided penny with part of the design missing and other portions doubled or distorted. And as every numismatist knows, off-center strikes, especially severe ones of 50% or more, are highly coveted when combined with clear dates and legible features which this specimen possesses. And then there's the double die obverse error, a legendary type of mistake in which the coin die itself was manufactured incorrectly, causing all coins struck from that die to have a doubling effect on certain parts of the design. And in this particular 1946 penny, the doubling is most noticeable on the word liberty, the motto, "In God We Trust," and the date 1946, creating a vivid shadow effect that is visible even to the naked eye and easily distinguishable under magnification. But it doesn't stop there, because this coin is also rumored to have been accidentally struck on a foreign planchette, meaning a blank coin disc intended for a different country's currency somehow ended up in the US minting machinery, which may explain its unusual coloration and weight, as metallurgical analysis suggests it may contain a unique alloy blend inconsistent with standard 95% copper and 5% tin zinc composition of wheat pennies from that era, possibly hinting at an experimental or transitional planchette that was never meant for circulation, further boosting its rarity and mystery. And adding to the list of anomalies is the presence of a repunched mint mark. Although Philadelphia minted pennies typically lack a mint mark, there are theories that a test batch of experimental 1946 cents may have been misattributed with a faint S or D mint mark punched over another letter, leading some experts to believe this coin may have passed through multiple mint facilities or was part of an experimental run involving reused dies from other branches, which further deepens its mystique and sparks theories about clandestine or undocumented minting activity at the time. And when we examine the coin's surface under advanced microscopic imaging, we also observe die cracks and cuts, imperfections resulting from damaged or deteriorated dies that leave raised lines or lumps on the coin's surface, specifically a long vertical crack that runs from Lincoln's shoulder down to the rim and a prominent cut over the letter T in trust, both of which indicate extreme die stress and make this coin a prime example of late die state usage, conditions that usually result in coins being discarded or melted but in rare cases slip through and enter circulation. And it's this unlikely survival that makes the story even more compelling, because this particular penny was reportedly discovered decades later in an old wooden cigar box tucked away in an attic, preserved by accident and untouched by cleaning or circulation damage, its crisp condition earning it a near-perfect grade from professional certification services such as PCGS and NGC, which placed it in a class of its own as not just a mint state specimen but one that also encapsulates every major type of high-value era collectors dream of. And once word of its discovery spread within elite numismatic circles, private collectors, and institutions began vying for ownership, each recognizing its unparalleled importance as both a historical artifact and a museum-worthy showcase of minting mishaps. And as bidding wars erupted and prices climbed from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions, it eventually found itself at the center of an invitation-only auction hosted by one of the world's most prestigious numismatic auction houses, where it was fiercely contested by billionaire collectors, rare coin investment firms, and global museums, ultimately selling for a staggering $90 million due to its one-of-a-kind status and the feverish desire among collectors to own what is arguably the most flawed yet flawless coin in the Lincoln cent series, a paradox that makes it so legendary. And beyond its physical errors lies the psychological and historical weight it carries as a post-war coin from a pivotal year in American history when industries were transitioning from wartime production, soldiers were returning home, and the nation was redefining itself economically and culturally, with coins like this serving not just as currency but as silent witnesses to monumental change. And when one considers the astronomical odds of all these factors, off-center strike, double die obverse, foreign planchette, repunched mint mark, die cracks, cuds, flawless preservation, and perfect storm timing, coalescing in a single coin, it becomes clear why this 1946 wheat penny commands such a high valuation, because to replicate even a fraction of its defects would be near impossible today due to advances in minting technology, stricter quality control, and the absence of wartime-era manufacturing chaos, meaning the coin is not just rare but irreproducible, a true unicorn in the coin collecting world, and its rise in value also serves as an inspiration to everyday collectors and hobbyists, reminding us that incredible treasures can still be found in unexpected places, from old jars to flea markets to dusty family heirlooms, and that a keen eye, a bit of luck, and an appreciation for history can turn a forgotten cent into a life-changing windfall. And so this 1946 wheat penny, now encased in bulletproof glass and insured for over $100 million, remains a testament to everything that makes numismatics so thrilling: the blend of history, art, science, and sheer unpredictability, and will likely continue to capture imaginations and spark debate for generations to come, because while many coins are minted, very few are minted with such an astonishing combination of errors, survival story, pristine condition, and historical gravitas that they ascend beyond currency into the realm of legends. And that, dear viewers, is the incredible tale of how a single 1946 wheat penny came to be valued at $90 million, capturing the awe of the world and redefining what we thought was possible in the realm of rare coins.